This is the word of the Lord. The disciples were gathered that evening in the same room, it is believed, in the same house that they had gathered Maundy Thursday night. Do you remember that night where Jesus washed his disciples' feet? And he gave us a new command to love one another. It is believed that the disciples, after all of the events, the death and crucifixion of Jesus, we know some of the disciples scattered, but on this day, it is believed that they regathered in that same upper room, around that same table. The atmosphere in that space would have been very different. They had seen Jesus executed at the hands of the state, and they were afraid. They were terrified that any one of them, because of their association with Jesus, would be next. They didn't know what to do. They were completely at a loss for where they are and where they were in the world and what was going to happen. But yet they knew enough to gather. So they gathered together in that place and they locked the doors. They were so afraid. They locked the doors to be sure that they were safe. You guys ever do that? You ever lock the doors? We don't ever lock the doors of our house. Is that terrible? It's terrible, isn't it? We live out in the country. We don't ever lock the doors of our house. However, we have children who do, who sometimes, especially if they're downstairs in the den at night, will make sure that that downstairs basement door outside is locked because, you know, it's dark out there and you got to lock the doors. So yesterday, we come home, being on the field, on the baseball field all day. And we go out to the grill, we're gonna grill some great, beautiful ribeye steaks, gorgeous. Close the door behind us on that basement door, step out, put the steaks on, get the grill going. Go to get back in, doors are locked. Oh no. Not only is that door locked, but every other door to the house is locked. And we never lock our doors. But yet, at some point in time, somebody in our family was scared enough to make sure the doors were locked. They wanted to feel safe and secure. Right? That's what we do. We take action. They were taking action to ensure their safety, their security. We do this all the time. Now that's a funny, kind of cute little anecdote story that connects, but we do this all the time, especially when we are wounded, especially when we are afraid, when we aren't sure of ourselves, we aren't sure of where we fit in the world, we aren't sure of where God is in the world or in our lives. We do things to protect ourselves, right? Maybe we have the courage, like the disciples, to gather together with our people, right? That's so important. It's so important to be able to gather together with our people around the table. Whether that table is a kitchen table at home with your family and loved ones and friends that you care for, whether it's a table down at the local brewery where we were Friday night with friends that we love, that are our people and we're able to just be, or whether it's the communion table where we all gather together at the table as believers and friends of Christ, right? They've gathered together, and I'm certain there has to be some conversation as to what's next. what do we do? How do we go forward? How do we live? What's going to happen next? There is serious anxiety and uncertainty at this point. Serious uncertainty. And in the midst of that fear, as the doors are locked, and gathering in that uncertainty and in that doubt and in that space of, now they've heard that Jesus was resurrected, but they don't know what that means. They've seen the empty tomb, but they don't know what that means. What does that mean for the rest of my life? What does that mean for Jesus? What does that mean for who I am? They don't know. How many times in our lives have we been in that same exact place where we just don't know? We just don't know where God is and what God is doing. And there's fear and uncertainty and worry and anxiety and stress around all of these things. And we can't seem to find our way out. And you know what? The disciples that day didn't have to find their way out, because here's what happened. Jesus came to where they were. Isn't that what he does? Jesus came. He showed up and he said, "Peace, be still." And I'm certain that he was not just speaking of the peace around and about physically. I am absolutely 100% certain that he was speaking peace to their souls. That he was speaking peace to those deep soul wounds that had been inflicted on the disciples. And even within himself. That's what Jesus does. He doesn't always let us know, like I would like for him to let us know. I mean, I'd like for there to just be a billboard right there on the side of the road. Laura, here's what's next. Here's where you are. Here's where I am. Here's how it's going to be. Isn't that what we want? We all want these big billboards and signs to be so clear, right? We want God to just speak. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, because I'm really good at that. You give me a list, I can check that list off with the best of them, right? And that's so true. This is what we do, right? Jesus doesn't always work that way, but he does always show up where we are in our wounds, especially when we are vulnerable, when we are honest with God and honest with ourselves about where we are and what we're feeling and where we are wounded. You know, the scripture passage today, Jesus doesn't require Thomas to believe without seeing. This is the next piece that's really important. Because I feel like we sort of expect that of ourselves sometimes, that we expect ourselves to not be able to move or to do or to even understand life unless we have everything lined up exactly the way it's going to be, right? But Thomas had the guts to be honest with his friends, the disciples. I mean, we think of them as disciples. They're just gathering of friends who've been following Christ. They're not considered the disciples. They're just a gathering of friends who've been following Christ. Thomas is honest enough among his people to say, "I don't believe that. I don't know. I don't think I can believe it unless I see it." And I so appreciate that vulnerability. He had a choice. He could have said, okay, I get it, whatever, and just gone on his way and pretended, made like he believed and he understood, and oh yeah, okay, oh that's great, yeah, oh wonderful, right? Like we do that when we hear about what's going on, something over here, something over here. We might feel a little bit left out, but we don't actually say that. We don't actually admit that we have doubts or that we don't believe or that we need more. That we need more. That's what Thomas is saying, right? At the heart of what Thomas is saying here is, I need more than just what you're saying to me. I need more. I need to see it. And instead of being turned away, the disciples certainly didn't turn him away. He was there with them the next time they gathered in the same passage. Did you notice that? The disciples, his friends, did not say to him, well, if you can't believe based on what I tell you, then you just need to be gone. No, there's compassion and mercy. There's love around that table and in that room. There's space for everyone. There's space for Thomas to be afraid and to not know and to doubt and to stay in uncertainty until he can get to the point where he does believe. And you know what? I think we in this Western world that we live in, we are so good at being certain, aren't we? Aren't we so good at pretending that we are certain about all the things related to faith? Right? Okay. It's okay. There, you can see me now at home, I think. Yes, thank you, Tina. This is why thank you, Danae. This is why we have a backup right here on the pulpit. Thank God for that. And for Ash, who's working right there. Thank you so much. Right? Isn't that right? Even in the uncertainty, even in our fear, even in our wounds, Jesus does not put us down. He doesn't turn us away. We're good? We're good? Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. So as we gather together, wherever we are, no matter where you are and how life is going, don't be afraid to be real, to be honest, to be vulnerable, to know that, even Jesus, after he's resurrected, still bears the marks and the wounds of his crucifixion. He wants us to know that he's with us. And he says to us, even today, peace, be still, peace. let not your hearts be troubled. So I invite you, wherever you are in your life, wherever you find yourself asking questions and struggling with uncertainty, or feeling lost or alone, or like Thomas, wanting more of Jesus, wanting to know more. Don't be afraid to ask those hard questions and to allow the deepest part of who you are to be seen, because you are loved, deeply and dearly loved by God. I give thanks for you for that every day. I invite you to join with me in our responsive hymn, For Everyone Born.